So we're here at the boat pond at Central Park here in Manhattan. Great boat pond. Fond memories of being out on that water. The juxtaposition of being on a placid pond to the giant skyscrapers around you. It's a hell of a juxtaposition. Oh, here's an observation that I think is very telling. Well, Ronald Reagan won in an electoral landslide in 1980. President Jimmy Carter did very well in many states. He was really competitive. What that means is that tens of millions of people actually voted for Jimmy Carter for re-election in 1980. Everything that was supposed to be up was down. Everything that was supposed to be down was up. So yet they voted for him for re-election. And now here we are all these years later, and plenty of those people are still running around out here, and they have offspring. So that explains how we could see a guy like Barack Obama with a non-existent resume win just by virtue of the fact that he had a D after his name. So, you know, you had all those people, they're still out here, they're still voting, they have children, some of them perhaps grandchildren of voting age for all the hell we know. You know, and when Ronald Reagan inherited the upside down world of Jimmy Carter, first off, you didn't hear him constantly saying what he'd inherited, like this Chicago politician did. Well, look what I inherited, look what I inherited. Ronald Reagan was a man, he was a leader. He rolled up his sleeves, he got to work, he led Congress. What he did with the economy was derided by many people, including Republicans. George Herbert Walker Bush referred to it as voodoo economics in the Republican primary. And Ronald Reagan was man enough to pick him as his Veep, even after having spoken like that. Little known fact, when President George Walker Bush first rolled into town in 2001, he took in more people from his immediate predecessor of the opposing party than any president in American history, and by far more people than ever before. Now that approach to uniting people worked beautifully in Texas, very well in Texas, and he won in a landslide victory against the unbeatable incumbent popular governor, and then won re-election in a landslide victory. And it was all about his approach to uniting people. It did work in Texas, but in the push and shove backstab world of Washington, D.C., not so much. And people are saying, he's a divider, he's a divider. Divider? The divisions were coming from the left. It was the venom and the vitriol from the left. No matter what he did, they're not going to be able to get over the fact that Al Gore came that close and lost. And when people say today how divided we are, and they want to look at Donald Trump, and all these people is running around saying, Donald Trump is full of hate. These people, I'm trying to think, where's the nearest house of mirrors? They need to get their asses into a house of mirrors. So the division is not coming from Donald Trump. People are saying he's dividing the country. They said the same thing about President Bush. He was being pointed to as the divider. The person that divided us along racial lines and economic lines was clearly President Obama. You can't miss it. He fomented division. Any of the divisions we're looking at really have nothing to do with President Trump. We've been divided a long time. Look at Kennedy, Nixon. But I think that we're divided more emotionally now. A lot of the hate is coming from people that just hate anybody with an R after their name, period. And that's unfortunate. I would say that these are people who get up out of bed in the morning looking for a reason to be unhappy. It is really disingenuous to point to President Trump as a reason for division in this country. It's plain damn silly. It's inaccurate, and they know it. They're lying. Another musing, people say that we should have more than two parties here. Oh, the two-party system doesn't work. Two-party system doesn't work. What the hell are you talking about? The two-party system has been working quite all right for us, right? We became the superpower of planet Earth, the greatest superpower in human history with our two-party system. Now, I can see the emergence of a third party. That makes sense to me, sure. But multiple parties? We're not a parliament. We are a representative democracy, a republic. And we can't have multiple parties. It doesn't work that way for our system. Another musing point for you. A lot of people out here have a problem with capitalism. In fact, liberation theology is a belief that poverty is caused by sin, but the assessment for the blame of the sin is never placed on the poverty-stricken. Alcoholism, drug abuse, laziness, none of that. Instead, it's placed on capitalism itself. So liberation theology is a belief system. Capitalism is the very sin that causes poverty. And of course, Barack Obama ate that up with a spoon for over 20 years. Of course he was anti-big business. Of course he was anti-business. He was anti-capitalism, which means anti-American, in a sense. The problem is not capitalism. The problem is not the system. The problem is human greed, which can be found in any system, and since the beginning of time. But more powerful than human greed is the human emotion of jealousy, which has been the cause of death to kings and queens through the millennia and the fall of many an empire. Jealousy is an extraordinarily powerful human emotion. And what I see with jealousy is class envy. I see class envy all over the place. So when people are screaming and yelling about the unfairness of capitalism, it's grounded often in jealousy, the haves and the have-nots. And it's all a bunch of garbage, because with capitalism, everybody can become the haves. All you got to do is take those risks. See, the people who are rich in this country, they're taking all the risks. Let's not forget that. And everybody has a shot at it with capitalism. You can go save your money and do it yourself. So there's a bunch of different musings for you. Hope you enjoyed those. Hope you took them in. I am Rob Arnold. I do say perspective is of utmost importance. At all times, keep the perspective.